Hello, I am live and waiting on Jenna Christensen to join me. We are going to continue our conversation about creative renegades and what that means. We started last week talking about just introducing the idea. Here she comes. There she is. Creative renegade is and what that means for entrepreneurs or for people with a small business or a medium business. Hi.
Hi.
I was just introducing our topic again today, talking about creative renegades in business. And welcome. Welcome back.
Thanks. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Um, we were just going to start with a quick recap to say we're doing this series really casually because we have been having a conversation over the last 2 years around this very topic where we were trying to describe what it is about certain businesses that makes them stand out, what it is about certain, entrepreneurs or designers or creatives, like kind of a bigger than just in design, what it is about particular brands that make them differentiated, that make them stand out, that make them relevant, right? Which make people want to tune in to what they have to say, and then make them resilient, right? What makes them be able to pivot when things like, big things like pandemics happen, but also smaller things in their business, like a shift in strategy or maybe something kind of changing and updating. So we finally decided that this felt like the right name for this felt like the creative renegade. That calling it by that name made it was like a big aha moment for both of us to say, yes, that's exactly what it is. And now we can start to have a bigger conversation. And so we decided to use this fantastic platform to do live conversations each week with each other, to continue to talk about this, but make it public, right? To bring other people in on that conversation. And these conversations are leading up to a series of events that we're going to do in a couple of weeks at High Point Market in North Carolina for both a workshop and a panel discussion. So, and I think we will continue to have it after that because we've gotten a lot of great feedback about the idea or the concept of the creative renegade, and that's really resonating with a lot of people. So, do you want to jump in with anything else before we get started?
Yeah, just listening to you talk, I was just kind of having some realizations myself about like, why is this important and why was I so excited to like do this with you? And I think part of it is exactly what you just said. It's like sharing with people why this is important. But I
Mm-hmm.
think for me personally, and I imagine it's similar for you, like this is what I want to deliver, right? So I want to work with people who like the idea of becoming a creative renegade. When
Yeah.
they hear us talk about it, they go, "Oh my God, I want that, but I don't know how to get there on my own." You know? And I think so that's one side of it. The other side is I think the more we talk about this, the more you and I both get clear about who it is we want to work with, what it is that we're delivering, who do we want to serve, and
Mm-hmm.
all those sorts of things. So just in the action of having these conversations, we also get clearer, which is
Yep.
great.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it works. It works for all of us. And just to say the way we work together is that I mean, we both work on both ends of the spectrum in marketing for a very similar type of client, a creative entrepreneur, a creative business owner who wants to grow their business in a new direction or kind of grow and develop a new potential type of business for their own, you know, for the current offering. And that you bring, and I'll let you explain what that is, but you bring such a beautiful and foundational point of view to your work that then I can kind of pick up on as marketing and branding strategist to kind of help execute. So
Yeah.
again, both sides of that business strategy and business development for brands. So
Yeah. So I think, yeah, why we make a great 1-2 punch combination
Yeah.
is like I'm reading this book right now, Atomic Habits, and in the first chapter of the book, they speak to this, which is I think what coaching really speaks to.
Mm.
And the author talks about how when you try to solve problems from the point of results, so you're looking at your results, you don't like them, you're trying to solve from that place. The what you reap as a benefit is going to be temporary. It's not going to be long
Right.
lasting. Like you actually have to look at what's the process, what's the thought process, what's the system I have in place that led to that result, and how do I then fix that? That's where the problem solving needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think so much of the work I do is really doing that. It's like, okay, you have some results that you don't like. And like when I think about, like, again, the people I work with, they're typically highly ambitious, creative professionals
Mm-hmm.
that feel like they haven't fully stepped into their potential. Like they
Right.
know they're capable of so much more, but they can't figure out why they're not there yet. And
Or who
so
have,
that's what we
I will
look at.
say,
Yeah.
I would say too, or who have met success in a very different path, maybe from a different type of environment before now, but can't translate that to maybe a
Great
different
point.
type of business, right? Like,
Yeah.
because I think we both see people who have either worked professionally and been super successful in one type of industry or one type of, career path, either shift or transition to doing something on their own, or shift or transition that current business into something, a new entity, right? And the environment around all of that has changed such that they can't quite understand what it is they need to do to find the same level of success on that path. So I would say it's a little bit of both, but highly driven by the same, motivated by the same factors, right? But sometimes it's
Yeah.
just not quite not quite clear on where to go and how to do it.
Well, you know what's so interesting about what you just said too? I don't think that concept of what you're talking about just applies to people who are changing industries or going out
No.
on their own. Listen, there are companies that we know have been in existence for 20 something years, and what worked for them in terms of finding new business 20 years
Yeah,
ago doesn't
doesn't work
work
now.
today.
Right.
And yet it's
Even what
really
worked two
hard to
years
kind
ago
of,
doesn't work today.
right,
I would say
right.
it's all shifting very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. So and the piece that I see, like change is really hard for people.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable. They want to keep doing the way that, they've done before, even though they want a different
Sure.
result, it's
Yeah.
comfortable. And so I think, again, that's
Yeah.
where that, solving from process, what's causing not want to change process.
Am I back?
Um,
I'm not sure what happened there.
yes,
Okay.
you're back. You're back. I saw a little,
I don't know what just
hey,
happened
this is Wi-Fi. This Wi-Fi.
there.
Thank you, technology.
In case you don't realize, we are not broadcasting from professional studios. So
Wait, you're not?
listening.
No, I'm just kidding.
No. Even though, you know what, your backdrop would have me believe
Pretty good,
otherwise.
right?
It's so freaking cool. Yeah, it's awesome. I'm about like neutral here. So hey, so let's jump right in.
Yeah.
I am excited. Okay, so again, Creative Renegade, you had a really exciting example, like a person that you wanted to talk about, and I would really sort of want to start our conversation by giving you the floor to describe who this is and what led you to, or how you found her and what that process looked like, because again, we want this to be useful and kind of tactical in some ways for people to sort of get and extract what they need, but I also want to keep it kind of high level to say, there are creative renegades we can talk about for, I mean, we could do this for years, but who is this one particular person, and let's start this conversation today by kind of describing her and kind of breaking down
Yeah.
deconstructing what makes this creative renegade successful.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. This person I have front of mind is, I think, really who inspired me to want to also do something like we're doing today.
Yeah.
To really kind of, it's time to put myself out there again in this way. That's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It was uncomfortable for me, but
Super
like it's time for me to take a risk, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so this person, her name is Amy Smilovic. Many of you may know her. She's the
Yeah.
creative director and founder of the fashion brand Tibby. And
Is it too
I
complicated? Can you drop that? Like, I don't know if anyone wants
in the
to,
comments, yeah.
maybe, yeah. Or even
Let's
like
see.
maybe when we post this, remember to do that, I will say. That would
Yeah.
be,
Let's see if it'll come up. I'm gonna just mention her. Oh, yeah. I just put her. I don't know. Can everybody
okay.
see that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So she is the creative director of the fashion brand Tibby. And I came to know her from another creative renegade who is a client of mine who is moving into the fashion space and really want to disrupt the way we dress and shop for clothes. And so she introduced me to Amy, and I started following her
Hmm.
and watching her weekly Instagram style classes. And
Still a
what really
thing.
struck me about her
Yeah.
was how she was talking differently about the wardrobe, who she serves, what it is she's delivering, you know,
Okay.
and unapologetically says, you know, hey, if this is not for you, that's okay. Like, this is not really about good, bad style. This is just like, this is our core beliefs, but maybe you're just not, you know, one of us, which is fine. You know,
Yeah.
do your thing. So I think that's a really key point first to kind of take note of. It's like,
Yeah.
because I find this really hard for people. Like, don't try to be everything to everyone. Just be really clear about who it is that you want to work with, what you deliver, you know, and who's it for, right?
Right.
So I think just first of all, hearing a different message. We were talking about differentiating points earlier. A message
Can I
that's
jump in
yeah,
and just say too, like she's also letting people know. She's kind of doing them a favor to say, I mean, a lot of us, when we do marketing like this sort of brand strategy, I see a lot of brands kind of keeping that to themselves. It feels like insider information. Like this is who we serve, this is who we're talking to very specifically, but that's not something they ever tell. You know, it's more of an acknowledgement to say, hey, you're part of this. You belong with us. If this is, you know, resonant with you. So it's cool that she's bringing that out. I love to see that.
yeah. What I find so interesting about it is like, if it resonates for you, right? You want to be a part of it,
Right.
right? So, like, she talks about her clients as being creative pragmatists. You know, that they're sort of walking that fine line of being super
Yeah.
creative but yet pragmatic. And so, um, and as she described what that meant, I thought, that's what I am. Yes, I'm in, you know, but I've never heard anyone talk about, you
Yeah.
know, fashion in that way. So I started to say how I came across her, which, you know, client, friend, colleague that I
Mm-hmm.
trust, you know, was like, you should follow her and get a sense of like, because this is the kind of thing, like, this is what I believe, you know,
Yeah.
when it comes to dressing.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting. I found out I didn't find her on Instagram. I didn't find her through her email blast, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or her website. I found her because I had a trusted person who told me about her. And I highlight that
Interesting.
because I think in interior design, and probably most, I think, service industries
Mm-hmm.
have that referral rate. I
Yeah.
think it's 70% of the business comes from referrals.
Yeah.
And so, but that also doesn't mean that someone gives a referral and they immediately hire you. It's like they give a
No.
referral, right? And then
Yeah.
they enter the sales funnel, which is what I did. I entered Amy's sales funnel, which
But
was, yeah,
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
was gonna say you enter at a different place because you have a trust factor already kind of built in from the referral from your friend, or from wherever it comes from, even from Instagram, that kind of social proof around what someone else has said, someone you follow, someone you trust, someone you whatever trust, someone
Yeah.
you you know, feel like you're connected to in some way. If that person is pitching or is, you know, talking about something else that you might like, you know, it's kind of the holy grail of marketing, right? If you can figure out how to gain access to a group of people through one or two influencers, or people who are, you know, able to share a message that's going to resonate, then that funnel, right, which starts at the top, kind of catching a lot of people before, you really spend a lot of money and a lot of time building trust and building content and building, assets that really get down to the very bottom. And the bottom part of that funnel is the decision people make to buy into your brand or call you for services or purchase something that's quite expensive or very, you know, I don't know, more than expensive, but valuable, right? So that takes a long time, but you can get to that middle part of the funnel much faster when you have social proof and when you have a word of mouth. So it's really cool that she brought you in. You feel like already you have a sense of belonging, you know, just from
Yeah,
the
no, I mean,
referral.
I know this is probably going to sound like, really, this fashion brand had this kind of impact on you. Like, I feel like it's been
Yeah,
life changing. I feel
yeah.
like it's been life changing. And whoever's watching, I totally recommend you follow her, Amy Smilovic. But
Yeah.
the way, again, that she talks about clothing, it's all about feeling like yourself. And it's also about sustainability, but
Mm,
not from the standpoint of like everything comes from something natural or everything like you can resell this or we'll take it back. It's more about like you don't need two separate wardrobes or three separate wardrobes for when you
mm,
go to work, when you go out, with your friends or on a date, and when you're walking the dog. It's actually all the same thing.
yeah.
But anyway, I think the thing about, again, her message, which has really been impressive to me, is the consistency of it, right?
Okay.
So I know when I talk to people, and I'm assuming you come up against this too, like when we hone in on a message, well, I said that already. Well, yeah, you
Okay.
need to be redundant. Like
You
you
got to
need to
say it a
keep
lot.
hammering home the same thing over and over and over again. You
Yeah,
can say it in a
I
slightly
know.
different way, but it's really important and it should cover all of your touch
Yeah.
points, right, with your client. So like with
Mm,
Tibby, for example, it's the same message on their email. You go to their
yeah.
website, it's the same message. You
Yeah.
watch her Instagram lives, it's the same message. You
Yeah.
walk into the store, it's the same message. All the
Yeah.
salespeople are communicating the same message. And so, what does that do? It
Yeah.
creates trust with the brand. If you
Mm.
have different messages coming from all different places, and it's
Oh my God.
confusing, you don't trust the brand, you don't trust what they're talking about. So,
The
like,
answer to confusion is always no. Like
compute,
it's never going to be yes, ever, ever, ever. If you say, I would disagree with you if a client says and they say to me, I've said it before. Okay, first of all, how many times have you said it? And you can never say it enough. And if you say it and you're switching it up a little bit because you're sensitive or you might be a little insecure that I'm overdoing it. No, 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 no. You have to say the same thing, exactly the same thing, over and over and over and over and over again, and you will reach people, right? They will hear you the first 3 or 4 times and they may or may not pay attention. It may or may not resonate with them. It may resonate the first time and then they don't care again until like the sixth or seventh time. But you have got to do it minimum 7 times. There's the power of
right.
seven is this, marketing principle. Like do it again, do it and keep doing it. Like don't stop, but don't change the message. You're right, because that trust is so important. And that fact that something becomes memorable is part of differentiation and part of standing out, right? You
Yeah.
have to be able, I'm just looking, sorry, I'm distracted by a question.
Can you
The answer,
elaborate when you
yeah,
say the answer to confusion is always no? I had to write that down because I thought that was
yeah,
so
no, no, no,
brilliant. Yes, say more
because
about that.
people don't know what to people want to be assured that they're making the right decision, and that can happen from a lot of different kind of psychological triggers and factors. But when you see something and it's prompting you to make a decision about, do I choose this versus this, right? If I have questions about what this is, how it's made, where it comes from, will I be able to find someone if I have a problem with it? Like all those kind of questions you're thinking super quick. It's not necessarily happening when you have buy toothpaste, but it might be happening when you buy a super expensive piece of furniture or a very nice new car or a really nice new sweater, like, or an electronic, or, whatever it is, or service, right? The commitment to work with somebody, if you're like a designer, let's say, like, those are one of 15,000 questions which may come up. And if there isn't trust built from the brand, the answer is going to be no. If someone can step in with, the assuredness through their brand message, through their content, through their storytelling, throughout all their kind of channels, before you even talk to them on the phone, who are you going with, right? There's a no
Yeah.
here because I'm confused, right? I'm confused and I don't have time and I don't care to ask questions. This person has already built my trust without me having to do anything. So the answer to, I don't know if that makes sense and if that helps answer the
Yeah.
question or not, but
I
yeah,
think
the answer
to
is
me
going to
it
be
makes
no.
sense. To me it makes sense. If you don't mind, do you mind if I just like build on what you said too? Because there was a
Yeah, go
thing
for
that
it.
came to mind, as you were talking. And I think this is another thing that you are brilliant at, which is in addition to all the things you said, like I
Mm,
remember this is quite a few years ago, it's probably 8 years ago, meeting a guy who owned a beautiful rug company. I mean, some
mm,
of the most beautiful rugs I have ever seen, right?
yeah.
And he's telling me about them. I'm getting a tour through the showroom. Like, I've not seen anything like it. Okay.
Okay.
And then he handed me his business card. And I
Yeah.
literally was like, what the heck is this? It looked like
What is
it
this?
cost 2 cents to print. And I'm like,
Oh
you
no.
cannot have a business card that looks like this or
Right.
feels like this in your hand. You are a luxury brand. You're
Yeah,
selling a luxury product that's one of the
that's
most
right.
expensive.
Yeah.
You cannot have a business card that looks and feels cheap.
The only
That
thing
is
that
another
people take
way.
home about your brand is that business card. Like, they can't
Yes,
take home a rug, right? They're
right,
going to remember you every time they touch that card, and it better be good. Yeah.
right. But that's another example, right, of not having the same message. It's not just about what
Yes.
you say, it's
Right.
about all those touch points and what are they communicating.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
talk
that's right.
about it, be about it. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, talk about it, be about it. Yes, I love that. Because it's not just, you have to, you can't just do as I say, not as I do, right?
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
everything needs to have that feeling that you're trying
I
to
would agree.
communicate, right?
I would say for the designers I know that are doing this really well, they are, and this is easy, not easy to do, but there's an exercise like some people can do to kind of understand where they might be, there might be an opportunity to work on their brand, is to do an audit, right? Do an audit across all the touch points of your brand, right? What happens when someone's thinking about finding you, right? Take a screen capture of your LinkedIn, your Instagram, your TikTok, your whatever, all those platforms of where you're out in the world. Take a screenshot of what they look like, right? And what's being said, and like, do that, and then put all that together in one kind of doc and like have a look, and then go to your email signature, go to, what does it look like when someone sends you an email? What do you write back, right? Is it super gracious? Are you in a hurry? Does it say at the bottom, answered by my iPhone, don't excuse typos? Like, all of these are parts of who your brand represents, right? And then when you follow up with a client, right, if it's a proposal, how does your proposal, is it clear and easy to follow? Is it multi-pages? I mean, I'm not promoting either way or the other, but that's a touch point to your client. What happens after your project's finished, right? Is there some kind of aftercare situation where you're, following up and, making some gesture that's relative to your brand? Do an audit across all the ways your brand interacts and touches with your client, potential client, your existing client, and your previous clients. And if it's not consistent, then you know where to start.
Yeah,
It's big work. It's big work. It takes, I mean, the designers I know that do this super well, obviously they've taken years to refine it. So don't beat yourself up that it has to happen overnight, but work on what's most impactful. Prioritize, making sure that those really, really key touch points are super well defined, and they're really, you invest in them in every way that you can, whether it's a really nice business card, whether it's a, maybe it's a follow up thank you note on really beautiful piece of stationery. Sometimes these things don't have to be bank
right,
breaking, but they
right.
are so meaningful, and the value of them comes from really just being thoughtful, right?
So as you were talking, you know, there was a thought that came back to me, and I love the exercise of that audit. I think that's such a
Mm.
smart thing for everyone to do because I mean, I know for myself, I'm like, wait a minute, I just changed something on my website. It's now like, wait, I got to go look at my
I
Instagram.
gotta go fix
You
it.
know, like, is everything in alignment here?
Yeah.
But
Right.
I wanted to go back to another example, I think, of what makes Amy a creative renegade
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
like how she got to where she is because she hasn't
Okay.
always been in the place that she's in and is clear about her message.
Hmm.
And, you know, I had the very exciting privilege of getting to meet her about a month
Okay.
ago. And so I got to ask her some
In
questions.
person?
Yes, in person. It was amazing
Yeah.
in her store in New York. And,
Okay.
you know, one of the things that she said, this was a gift that came out of COVID. Like,
Yeah.
COVID really changed the way, I mean, I think she said, I'm trying to remember, I think 40% of her business went away overnight, you know? And so it
Wow.
was like,
Wow. Wow.
it was a practice in, and I think this is the key point, and I think I mentioned this last week, to me, of what makes a creative renegade. It's the ability to trust yourself over anyone else. And so what has happened is she
Hmm.
no longer is following what the rest of the industry demands. Like she said, if the Bloomingdale's is going to tell me I have to make 400 turquoise tops, and that's not what I'm going to do, I'm not doing it. You know,
Yeah.
I'm going to be willing to listen to myself, willing to make the clothing again that fits my message and what I'm selling here, this
Yeah.
idea. And I'm not going to let anyone outside of that tell me to do differently.
I
That
love
is
that.
so brave.
Yeah.
That is so brave. And I think to
Yeah.
become a creative renegade, you've got to be willing to be vulnerable
Hmm.
and you have to be willing to be brave. It makes me think of another
Right.
client that I have that I think on our first call, she shared with me, I want to become a household name. And
I
I
know who
want,
she is, and she's
yes, I know you know
fantastic.
who she is.
She's the
I don't
best.
want to call her out because I don't know how she
She
would feel
will.
about me saying that, but why I bring that up is to say that out loud, which I don't think
Yeah.
she had to another individual up until that point. To
Yeah.
say that out loud to another person
Yeah.
is incredibly vulnerable and brave because you don't know what kind of reaction you're going to get, right? Someone could
Sometimes
say,
you
what are
don't
you,
even,
nuts? How are you going to do that?
yeah, or you don't even feel like admitting something like that, yeah, to yourself, right? To say that out loud, just for other people to hear it means like, oh God, now I might be committed to it. Oh shit, now I might have to actually do that. And it's big stuff. It's cool though, right? Bold.
Right. So you gave a great example of like a tactical thing that people could do, which is that, you know, really taking inventory of what all of your
Yeah.
platforms are communicating. Are they in alignment? You know,
Right.
are they really communicating the message, right,
Yeah.
that you want? What I would say is like, if you really want to figure out how to trust yourself, oh God, did I do something wrong?
Yeah.
You're
No,
laughing.
I just saw
If
a
you,
message came through. You'll get it. Beautiful.
you meant what?
A message came through. It's beautiful. You'll get it. Carry on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The I guess the question I would encourage everyone to ask themselves to kind of help get back to being self-directed and self-guided and have
Right.
that self-trust. Like I posted this on Instagram this morning, and it is like, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Because I
Yeah.
think when you ask yourself that question, like the things come up that you really want to do,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you're afraid that people won't show up, they won't pay the price, they won't see the value, I won't get any more customers, you
Right.
know. But when you ask yourself questions like that, it really shows you where you really want to go. I would say the
Hmm.
same thing probably happened for Amy. Like, what would you do
Right.
if you knew you couldn't fail? I'm not going to listen to what all these people want from me instead because it's ruining my brand. What I really want to do is trust myself.
Yeah.
Whoa. Earthquake
Just
in New York City.
earthquake. That's right. Oh God.
I'm gonna turn up my
So
volume so I can hear you better too. I feel like I'm not
that's
hearing you.
okay.
Okay.
I thank you for coming. I will say we're gonna are we trying to keep these to 30 minutes, or do you want to keep going, or do you want to
I
say
mean,
we'll
I can
carry this?
keep going if you'd like. I don't know if there are any more
Okay.
questions. Like I see we had. Thank you for the feedback, everybody.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
I mean, I think I think we could talk about this all day, but let's
Yeah.
table this and keep the conversation going next week. And I love that we're doing this. I will say, from a boldness point of view, this makes me super uncomfortable coming and doing live IGTV videos. Like, I don't mind speaking in public at all. I could do that with my almost with my eyes closed. I love, and especially speaking with you. But we had this conversation, and I thought, okay, we're gonna put ourselves out there. We're gonna like open this conversation up, because the what mattered more than being uncomfortable was to say, what if this is going to help other people? Like, what if this is going to help, other people make those admissions out loud, say things that, make them uncomfortable, and then follow through with them, right? Um,
Yeah.
so,
Um, it's really interesting. I heard a coach once say, like when people, and I think you just nailed it, like you started thinking about what's the value this might bring to people, and that's what
yeah.
motivated you to be uncomfortable, right? So it's like really important to be in touch with the value of what you do, because like
Mm-hmm.
and this is the example this particular coach made. Like if you created a cure for cancer, would you keep
Right.
that for yourself?
Right. Right.
Or would you like call everyone you knew, be on every platform, every TV station, like just
Yeah.
like shouting it from the rooftops because you know how valuable that is?
Yeah. And
And
we should
so
all feel that way about what we're
yeah,
doing.
right.
Of course it's
Right.
valuable.
So I think that's such a key point. Before we sign
I love
off,
that.
should we highlight one? I'm not here next week because I'm going to be in the Netherlands.
Okay, good for you. Oh my gosh, safe
Yes,
travels. Okay,
yes.
perfect. Great.
But secondly, should we highlight like one or two like bullet points that we want people to take away from today?
I
What would be
I don't
yours? One
mind.
or two? Yeah,
The answer to confusion is always no.
yeah,
Make it clear. I mean, clarity is everything. If you're not selling clarity in your business, then you have no product. But no matter
yeah,
what it is, I don't care. Okay, that's it.
yeah.
What's yours?
Um, well, I'm gonna say too, because I think that what you mentioned earlier of doing that sort of inventory, I used a different word, but
Audit.
of real audit. That's
Yes.
great. That
Yeah.
audit, that messaging audit is every platform, every integration point, every touch point with my client, is it telling the same message, which again
Yeah.
leads to what you just said, that
Yeah.
clarity. And then the other is just encouraging people to ask themselves the question, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail?
Oof, I love that. That is the perfect place to leave this conversation. And I would say the perfect place to pick it up next week, the week
Yeah,
after, also.
yeah. All right.
All right. Safe
Yay.
travels. See you.
Thank
You're right.
you.
Next week is Labor Day. I forgot. Okay. See you in 2 weeks, and take care, lady.
Bye. Thanks everybody for coming today. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye. I don't know how to turn this off. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. This button? No. This button? Yes, I do. Okay, ciao.